Hi everyone! Today I'm here with my April wrap-up. I did mention in my previous video that I wasn't reading for the past couple of months because I had to study for something, but now I've passed it, so now I can freely read anything I want at any time I want without feeling guilty for reading for pleasure. So in the month of April I managed to finish 4 books and I'm really proud of that, which means actually also that I did complete the Readathon, the magical Readathon. And I've passed it and all of that stuff. If you don't know what I'm talking about, all of the related videos are going to be in the description box for you to check out, which is G's announcement video as well as my own video in which I was talking about my TBR for the month. Hopefully it's going to be a quick video because if I'm honest, I stopped liking filming wrap-ups just because I don't quite like the format of it. Also, I feel like by the time I finish the book, if it's been a couple of weeks, I don't always remember what happened or I don't always remember what I thought of it. So I'm thinking of like a different way of telling you which books I've read. So I don't know, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. But yeah, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about every single book that I read. It's just going to hopefully be a quick and nice video. So let's get started. So the first book that I finished was Juliet and the Shark by Kieran Millwood Hargrave, and it is a beautiful book on its own. Like, it's got some nice illustrations throughout the book and it's just beautiful. There are a lot of different illustrations and it was quite a nice experience of reading the book because these pictures actually added a lot of the atmosphere to it. So this book is definitely atmospheric. I do need to tell you what the plot is though. Well, I think what's on the back actually describes the book the best. So my name is Julia. This is the story of the summer I almost lost my mum and found a shark older than trees. Don't worry though, that does not spoil the ending. So I think it kind of does summarize the book pretty well. So it takes place in one summer. Julia's family go to this lighthouse and her mum's always been interested in catching a shark, or rather finding a shark that is older than trees. And so it's basically a story about that. I would say I enjoyed it. I know it's a really popular book and a lot of people love it so much. It's like a 5-star book for everybody. I'm always the opposite of that. Like, I didn't hate it though. I did give it 3 stars, I believe, but it was a good story, don't get me wrong. It was really I would say more of on a, not exactly on a surface level for children, but I think it was a good one, but it just didn't quite hit the mark for me to be even a 4-star book. But I know that a lot of people love it and a lot of people would probably find it quite impactful. It just didn't do it for me. But yeah. My next one was finally Vulture by Bex Hogan, which is the 3rd book in a trilogy, Isles of Storm and Sorrow trilogy to be exact. The first book was my favourite for sure. It was great. It was set on a sea, it was set on a ship. We followed Marianne, whose father was the Viper, and she one day had to face whether she wanted to survive, whether he would kill her or he would make her a killer, as far as I remember. So the first book, I gave that one 5 stars. Second one was a bit of a disappointment, so I think I gave that one 3 stars. This one, again, I wasn't the biggest fan. There were some aspects of this story that I thought if they were like explored more in depth, that would have been great, but they were sort of left out and they didn't go in places that I wanted it to go. But the trilogy as a whole, I would recommend it. But just for me, the 2nd and 3rd books just didn't do it for me. I think 3rd one I gave 3 stars to, as far as I remember. It could have been 4, it doesn't really matter. I think it's a 3-star book. It took me a while to read it, but then again I had to pause because I had to study for something else. But yeah, so it didn't go in places that I wanted it to go. It didn't quite meet my expectations because the first one, I feel like it gave such a good impression that I thought, oh, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be just an amazing trilogy. For me, it wasn't. So a bit of a disappointment, but still, it was alright. Next one was Shadow by Michael Morpurgo, which is another children's book, and it's got a lot of different illustrations, like that one. With Michael Morpurgo's books, a lot of the time what happens is we meet a character and then this character goes to find another character, and that character is telling a story of their life, which is the most impactful, which is the most like important part of the story. And it's again the case with this one. So we follow a story of a man, I think is how you pronounce that, and he's a little boy of, how old is he? I don't quite remember. He's either 7 or 11 years old. I'm terrible with details. And so we follow his story of how when he was in Afghanistan, I believe, he found this dog, rather the dog found him, and they became friends, and he called him Shadow, her Shadow. But then there was a difficult situation back then, so they had to flee the country, so they went to England. So they had to overcome quite a few difficulties, and it's a little bit impactful as well, like the things that you read about in a book that actually happened, because I think it's based on a true story. It's horrible, and you think, how did these things even happen, and probably still happen nowadays? It's just, I can't get over that. So yeah, but it was a good book. I think I gave it 4 stars. As usual, I love his writing style, and he makes me feel connected to the characters so much, even in such short books. Even though they're children's books, I do think adults will like them. Well, I like them, so it was a good one for sure. And then the last book that I finished was Written in the Stars by Ali Harris. Again, I started it a couple of months ago and just finished it today on the 1st of May, but let's just pretend I read it in April, finished it in April, because I only had like 80 pages left, and it's a 450 page book. It counts, alright, I'm counting it since I finished it in April. So this is kind of like a romance novel. In this one we follow our main character who is about to get married, but then her life sort of splits in two. In one of them she says yes and goes to get married, and then in the second one she runs away, and we sort of follow both storylines. I enjoyed this book a lot actually, and I think for my reading I finished it quite quickly. I mostly read it under a week, which to me is great because I still had a full-time job and all of that. So I think pretty amazing, to be fair. I gave it 4 stars in the end, because if you hear noises, just please always bear in mind I've got 2 cats that sometimes fight or play, so I apologise for that, it just can't be stopped. There were a couple of moments that I thought this book was going in a direction that I really didn't want it to go, but no, then it sort of got back on track and I was happy with how it was going. So I did really enjoy the book, and it was actually a really interesting concept as well to see how her life would have turned out in like each of these scenarios, which was really fascinating to read about. And I want to read more books like that, because it was really, really interesting and really fascinating, like I said, to like wonder what if is always interesting thought, isn't it? So in this one it was definitely good and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like, I wouldn't say it's exactly romantically heavy or steamy or anything like that. It is a lot about the person's development, like their personal development, I guess, and relationships with family, discovering yourself and all of that. That's mostly it. So it's not like a steamy romance novel or anything like that. So, but I really enjoyed it still, and I would definitely recommend this book. I was surprised by this one, so it's a really good one. And then the last book is actually going to be a DNF. It is an audiobook and it's called The Nesting by C.J. Cook. Again, I started that book probably in January or February, but I came off of audiobooks again. I always seem to be having a thing when I listen to audiobooks, then I stop listening to audiobooks, and now again I've stopped listening to audiobooks. It's nothing to do with the book. I was enjoying the book quite a lot. I think C.J. Cook is definitely the author who I want to read a lot more books from, but I feel like audiobooks just definitely not for me. And on my commutes now I just listen to music, because I don't always just want to concentrate on an audiobook, I just want to enjoy the music. So yeah, so I've DNF'd it, but like I said, not the fault of audiobook whatsoever. I had like two and a half hours left, but I just could not bring myself to finish it, because the time has passed and I probably would be like, who's this character, what are they doing, what's happening, forgotten all about it. But it was a really good one, and I would probably like to revisit it at some point in the physical format. I listened to another audiobook by this author, I can't remember at this point what it's called, I told you I'm terrible with details, but that was a good one. So I think instead of listening to them as audiobooks, one day I might just buy all of her or his, all of their books and read them physically, because what I listened to was really good. It would have been a 4-star book for sure, but I just can't bring myself to finish it at all. So yeah, there we go. So that's the 4 books that I finished in the month of April and 1 DNF. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you like it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!